Hello, Nina.
Hello, David.
What shall we talk about today?
One thing I always see now on my more like ethical social media pages that I go and visit, the term, when you know better, you must do better. And
I know what that means.
ignorance is bliss. It's like if you don't know, you can't even be expected to do anything other than what you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of this burden of once you know something, your responsibility to do better, because now you know.
Right. If you don't know about recycling, you're just throwing everything in the trash.
Yeah, and then you're not a bad person because you just didn't know, right?
If you know about it and you throw it in the trash.
Then there's responsibility and accountability there.
So how does this apply to horses?
So, there's such the big wave right now or the undercurrent that's coming up about more ethical treatment for horses and more humane treatment for horses. And that's when you see a lot, again, this expression, well, I didn't know any better at the time, but now I do. So now I have a responsibility to do better. But you see many equestrians who clearly are exposed enough to know better, but who do not want to do any better. They don't want to change. Why? Why do you think that?
I was just going to ask you.
I want to hear what you think. Why do you think that is?
Oh, I think we've kind of referenced it in previous videos. It takes more time, more energy, more patience to get the desired effect that you want from your equine partner. Whether it's foregoing the whip or giving them more time to turn out or using more positive reinforcement. It takes more time, more energy.
So making that change, you're saying, would be inconvenient?
Inconvenient, correct, yes.
Also, too, what about a very human tendency to be apprehensive about change?
Oh yeah, I fall in that category.
I think most of us have a little issue, with change. We get comfortable with what we know. The horses are certainly the same way. They get very comfortable with what they know.
Like Mercy going home.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we go with what we know. We're comfortable with what we know. It can be scary to make changes. What if, for instance, you're an equine professional and you now do know better, and you're weighing the possibility of making some sort of a change? What if you're thinking it's going to affect your livelihood? Like, oh no, all of my customers are going to leave because they're not going to understand this, or they're not going to like it, or they're not going to approve of this.
Yeah, that's a more concrete reason not to change, but the fear of change and the inconvenience, I see those as the mental blockers.
How do we get around that?
Well, definitely we're doing that now, helping to educate and showing by example, but I'm stumped on that one. I'd love to hear if you have some ideas.
I don't know. I think what you just said is correct. Raising awareness, showing others that it can be done. Like, for me, I just needed to see one person do it, and I'm like, I can do that then. If one person can do that, then we can all do it. That's sort of my theory. There's some things I wouldn't want to do. I don't want to, go skydiving just because one person can go skydiving. That's not what I'm interested in. But I think we have a responsibility to this beautiful, noble, generous animal to do the now I know better, I must do better philosophy. And I feel like when we put our head in the sand and decide, well, I can't take that chance because of my business, because of my reputation, because of my status in the equine community.
That's a big one.
Because I might lose income. I mean, those are sort of all that's people problems. We now know there are very specific things that are much better and much healthier for the horse. What are you going to do about it? And I think that, unfortunately, making law and creating legislation is probably not the answer.
No, it's not.
Guilting people is not the answer.
I think showing by example, and not just showing how, but the effects, the benefit.
Showing how happy it can become.
How us and our partners are.
Yes.
How much better they respond, and then you go home knowing that you did the best for your horse.
And it's funny because when in the old days, it wouldn't be unusual for me to feel very sad
Really?
going home after a training session, or even cry right after or cry during.
Because you're so tough on them?
The conflict that I felt for loving this horse so much, but being pressured into being a very serious disciplinarian.
I assume that you blocked that out.
Oh no, I couldn't. No.
Do you think a lot of people do, or do you think a lot of
Yes.
people do feel sense?
I feel,
empathy?
and this is going to be very provocative now, but I'm just going to say it. I think that's why there is so much drug abuse and alcoholism in the equestrian community. I do. I believe it.
Yeah, you can only abuse an animal so long before you start to have to numb out.
Yeah, and most of us came to this because we loved horses. So we loved them, and then some of the first few things we're taught is to hit them with a crop, and to poke them with the spurs, and to pull their head in, and to pull their neck around.
I've never seen any of that, luckily.
Thank God you've never seen it. You'll never see it here, God willing, and I hope you never have to see it. I hope things change enough around you that you are insulated and you never have to see that. I think that with a lot of the small children that we teach here, wouldn't it be amazing if they never had to see it, or they never had to hear it?
Especially for the kids. That's traumatic.
I think here's another provocative thing for you, all the letters that will come, or the old days, all the comments that will be written. What do you think? Do you think it's child abuse to give a child a stick and teach it to hit a horse?
Yes, I do. It's animal abuse, but it's also child abuse.
Yeah, it's definitely animal abuse, but isn't it also child abuse?
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's very abusive. Children are so innocent and have such a strong connection to the natural world still, and love animals so much.
But they trust adults.
And the trusted adult comes in and says, here is a riding crop.
If it doesn't do.
And I'm going to teach you how to smack that animal.
Yeah.
Imagine the conflict.
Yeah, you're teaching a child how to abuse an animal. Basically.
Yeah, I don't remember it, and I think that's because
You blocked it out.
no, I did not. I'll tell you what it was. The way they frame it makes you, it's like being indoctrinated. It's brainwashing. There was a little book that one of the kids brought to the camp, and it had the picture of a little girl in the riding outfit, and she's holding a crop. And I remember when we first went to our first riding lessons, we were given a list of things that we had to have. One of them was a pair of riding boots, even if it was rubber, it was fine. And the other one was a riding crop. We had to have boots and a whip.
As a crop, okay.
Yeah, it's a shorter crop,
okay.
a shorter whip. We had to have that. It's normalized. It's normalized from the very beginning. I remember this little girl when we first became whipless, and it was like I really was so anti-whip at the time. This little girl marches up proudly to have her introductory lesson with her whip in her hand, and it was so hideous to me.
You're like,
And I couldn't help myself, and I just looked at her and I said, you can give that back to your parents and they can go put it in the car. I just didn't even want to see it because of my own trauma. I was done now.
Right, your association.
I finally finished it, it was finally done with me.
Wow.
Now I'm okay again. It's like, it's not, I can look at a whip and I'm like, oh, someone can go, you find me a whip because I dropped something behind the cabinet and I need to fish it out.
Better use for it, yeah.
So, but, we're indoctrinated. But we can't just all be asleep forever. So even though I was indoctrinated into thinking it's not a big deal and it's okay and everybody does it, so it's just fine.
Everybody does it.
Now I know better because I have common sense. I have a head with a brain in it on my shoulders, and I have some compassion and sensitivity to allow myself to say, no more. That's it.
I can't imagine ever hitting one of those guys. Sometimes if I just bump into them, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And meanwhile, they're heavier and stronger. I'm not hurting them, but just can't imagine. So
yeah, can you imagine if you came here and one of the first things I was going to show you is how to use the whip?
I'd probably say, thanks for this opportunity. I don't think this is the right place for me. I would not want to see that. Yeah.
Okay, so somehow it all came back to whipless again, but it was about if you know better, do better, and that's not just about whips. That's about stabling options and not keeping them confined for 24/7. It's about allowing them to have relationships with other horses and allowing them to have social time and to mutually groom each other. It's about longer periods of freedom for them. It's about consent and allowing them to make choices. There's so many things that fall under if you know better, do better. And now you've heard some more if you didn't know them before, so now you know them. So now you have to do better too.
I was going to say, now that we all know better, let's all do better.
Let's all do better. Let's
Yeah.
all do better.
There will be many more of these ethical horsemanship videos to come as well. So
Thanks, David.
Thank you, Nina.
Thanks, Travi.